I know that you're all from the search quality. Can you kind of explain a bit about kind of how the teams are structured at Google, and kind of perhaps, because I think there's perceptions of how the team is structured, and between the UK and the States and Europe. Can you kind of expand a little bit on kind of how the team's structured and what search quality does, really, I suppose?
Yeah, sure. You want to?
Okay, so it's structured like the main algorithm is programmed, of course, in Mountain View in California, but you need to really feel the markets. You need native speakers to do quality control again. So for whole Europe and for whole EMEA at the end, and also South America, all the languages are based in Dublin so far. And so there's like a centralized team tackling all these different kind of spam and quality issues. So for example, there was this, well, in Germany at least it was very common, there were all people buying links in Russia. So it was good to be together and to tackle this problem over different nationalities.
And is there kind of a feedback loop there it goes as well? Because if you say a particular issue that's Russian links in the German market, does that then kind of go up and form almost the kind of worldwide?
Yeah, I mean, link building is worldwide, it's a worldwide issue, so it makes sense that the teams work closely together.
Are there any kind of misconceptions you think about, kind of, I suppose, what people think about how those search quality teams work?
Yeah, it's actually kind of important to keep two things in mind. One, you have an algorithmic side and you got a manual side. Now, we all worked on the manual side. We did not work on the algorithmic side. The algorithmic side is pretty much some engineers, great guys, nice to have a drink with. They can absolutely astonish your brain with complicated algorithms like, ooh, well, do that and that and that and that. Really fun to have discussions with. But they really focus on tackling large-scale problems. They don't necessarily focus on individual sites at all. They may use a sample of individual sites as a combination, as a group, for a data set of, for example, false positives to see how many of false positives are being caught. But they don't necessarily care in a way for individual sites. They see we want to tackle the problem big scale. Small scale is a waste of my time. Yeah. And then you got the manual part, which is the part we were working in, and basically this consists out of about 90% of evaluators that basically dive into and review manually the tons of websites, really tons and tons and tons of websites. And then basically you got a small specialist group, which is part of the total group of the 100% together. And that 10% is driving a little bit further. They look at bigger trends. So they look at okay, we've seen, for example, these Russian schemes in the German market. Do we see them elsewhere? Can we tackle it at a bigger scale? It's kind of caught in between engineering and the rest, the other 90%. And that's basically, also a fun position to be in.
And what kind of informed the process of where you were looking at these kind of, spotting those trends? Because you need to be looking at data to find them, but they're kind of particular. Was it complaints? Was it kind of, was there data that was informing that? Or was that kind of you had an area of specialism and you went off and looked at it?
It's a combination of all these things. So we receive reports and we analyze them. But the more you develop your skills, the more you become senior, the more you are also into investigation for yourself. So you go, you follow your leads, reports or leads that your colleagues could find and forward, and you investigate. And out of that investigation you can build a case to get some penalties applied, to have some insights changed in the rankings. But it's very important to know that the more senior the people are within the team, the more they are aware of big problems and the more they are able to understand cross countries.
Is there a level of autonomy there as well? Because I can imagine, potentially, maybe for more some of the high profile examples, that potentially it's kind of share price inducing and big impacts that some of these penalties and removals of sites can have. Is it kind of done by committee? Is it kind of levels of escalation, or how's that work?
There are several levels of any website in principle that gets a manual penalty. So we're not talking about the algorithmic part, we're talking about the manual part. Well, first of all, also quick note there, the algorithmic part is not a penalty, it's a re-evaluation of your website. And in most cases, if you have the webmaster or if you're complaining, it means it meant your site is crappier than we thought. But otherwise, you know, it's, I've seen also the opposite, like going out, and that's great. But like from the manual perspective, pretty much every website goes through quality control when they're being reviewed and being tackled as like, okay, this is spam, we need to tackle this. At that point, it actually goes through an approval process. There are multiple stages in that process. Multiple people see it before it actually gets applied. The actual penalty goes live. So, because of that, Google is also, in most cases, like really sure about, okay, yeah, we're really sure this is actually a problem. We need to tackle this. That also means you need to justify it. So if you're in the position of evaluator, senior or junior, you always have to justify why you're doing it. If you're in the 10%, where as an analyst, where you basically focus on like tackling bigger trends across market, you still have to document everything. So you need to justify, document it, and that data can also be reused at a later stage. For example, re-inclusion request. So they have something to compare any re-inclusion request to. Like, okay, we saw that at that time when we applied that penalty. And they're writing in and they say they solved this problem, but hey, that's not the same problem. Let's see if it's still there, you know. And if that's there, well then sorry, but you haven't solved the problem.
And I mean, I know you worked at various stages, but kind of largely before kind of, particularly kind of rolled out the disavow process. But when you kind of look at it, what were the kind of the most common types of, I suppose, spam that you were coming across? Because that I think might differ from the perception of what SEOs see the most, because they're looking at things in perhaps a slightly different way. Is there any kind of particular thing?
So when I started, it was there was so much template spam out there. So it was just incredible, and like most of the websites we rated, we were checking, half of them were maybe porn. So it was also time to perform misspelling correction. So we had cases where they were typing in like child websites, and then you had porn website on top of the results. So porn was really a big issue at this time in the templates. And then later on, especially for my market, because how I said, all the native speakers are mainly tackling their own markets in the first place. Germany was crazy about links and link spam, and it was hard to tackle. And I would say now the penalties are way harsher, and it's really a bad timing now to buy links. Actually, we have an opposite development in Germany right now. It's the new trend is de-building links. I don't know it's here, but so this was at the end more actually less web spam, more like this gray area stuff.
You know, because is in most cases it's the super obvious stuff, because there is that kind of ambiguity, and you know, sometimes people, you know, if they're defending Brighton, we're going to go, well, how did they know that was bought link? You know, there's kind of the ambiguity in or is it in most cases you tend to be so concerned it's the most heinous examples that are drawing the attention?
Well, let's give a very short example. Let's say we check the backlinks for your site. Your site is selling flowers, and yet
no particular reason why you say
I can say anything, but if you get a really unnatural amount of optimized anchor text links, Google is going to see that very fast. They're going to have people checking on the single anchor text level and decide if that's natural or not. So of course, if you buy a link, the human evaluation can be wrong, but they won't decide on a single link. They will decide on big data. And therefore you can be sure that penalties are normally not being applied for very small cases. But be aware of the fact that the more Google evolves, the more they go into single behaviors, so single anchor text, single URLs, and they become more able to spot links also for few pages, each of them.
So we just had a case in Germany of a dating platform, and also internationally, we had debuilt from 90,000 links, we debuilt at 70,000 links. So the team was like working on this for months. We trained them, which is like a Google conform link, which not. And now the penalty is gone, but I mean they lost all their artificial reputation, and the rankings are more or less done.
And you talked there about kind of like, I suppose, what's normal, as it were. And I've kind of, the way I've always kind of thought about it is almost like proximity to normal. If you kind of imagine a distribution or it should look like, yours should maybe look similar to that. But how does that then kind of play out in spaces where there's a huge amount, everyone's at it, the payday loans, some of the various verticals which are seen as kind of more competitive. Is there kind of a different barometer there, see what I mean, in terms of the perception? Because you're talking about what's normal. If everyone is doing it, then how do you know what normal looks like?
Yeah, so well, actually, two things there. One, Google has a really lot of data. So they are able to distinguish what is normal, what isn't normal. But still, even if everyone is doing it, like, I know there's one particular sector, branch niche in the Turkish market that is absolutely spamming the crap out of each other with link exchange and everything. The whole top 10 is penalized. But they're still there. Why? Because there's no one else that actually has content.
So you're competing against each other, right? So if you're all equally penalised, then no one's penalised.
There's more crap behind, right?
So it's like, it's really like, at some point, Google just doesn't have the data. For example, similar problems exist in Southern Korea, or it existed in Southern Korea, where Googlebot was consistently excluded through robots.txt. Because Naver, the primary search engine there, also has like a huge platform, like a type of blogspot kind of thing, like a huge community and forums and everything, and all the content is there. And of course, they block Googlebot. So now Googlebot doesn't have can't access and cannot index and present search results that like half of these Southern Korean audience is participating in. So yeah, these things can be very tricky.
Fantastic. There was one thing I was meant to do earlier. I don't know if the guy behind the screen who does all the slides. They call these fireside chats normally, and I did ask about getting a fire on stage, and they said no. So instead, is this going to work? Oh, there we go. Yeah, works. Cool. Fantastic. So I've got a couple of people with microphones. Mila's here, and I think Paola is somewhere. Has anyone got any particular questions? Oh, there's one right in front, so that's nice and easy.
Good morning. Last week there was an...
Sorry, can you stand up, say who you are, and then...
Okay. I'm Jan from the Netherlands, international SEO manager for an international company based in Spain and the Netherlands. Last week there were some discussions about the influence of sending a disavow file to Google. How is Google dealing with it? Is it dealing it in a different way when there is a manual penalty or an algorithmic re-evaluation, like Philly told? What's your opinion about how is Google dealing with the file, and what's the difference between Google's actions when there is a manual penalty or algorithmic action?
So, from what I understand from the question, please correct me if I'm wrong, you want to know like two things, like primarily like the second thing on like manual versus automatic, and the first part primarily on like does Google do anything in it with the extra data they're getting from the disavow tool, except disavowing?
Yeah, exactly, because we had the discussion about what if you don't have a penalty, for example, or getting your rankings bumped. What is Google doing with the data? And we came to the conclusion that Google isn't doing anything with the file unless you file a manual re-inclusion request.
So my answer to that would be like at the moment I haven't seen them doing anything with it either, and I don't think they will anytime soon, to be honest. It's similar like, from my perspective, it's similar as like the removal request. So you have a removal request within Webmaster Tools, where you can basically say, okay, I don't want this page to rank. Does that mean that if you have a number of removal requests for your own website, that Google's going to say, oh, maybe your website is not that good, or something like that, let's use it as a ranking system? I don't think that is the case. That said, I don't know what they will do in the future. And of course, the one main power that Google has is the fact that they have that amount of data. data warehousing is pretty much their product. Without it, search wouldn't exist. So maybe there will at some point. I don't think it has any negative effect at the moment to disavow domains or links that even without a locality, manual one, or without being hit by pinging or any other algorithm, that you basically say, okay, I just don't trust this, I don't want this. Because the same applies with nofollow. You could have said to like, hey, you can reach out, you can keep an eye on your backlinks and say like, hey, these guys are linking to me, I'm going to ask them to put nofollow, and I'm going to thank them for the link, but I'm going to say, hey, will you mind that it's a nofollow, I don't want to misinterpret that. And you know, I don't think it's going to be a negative effect. But that's just my opinion, I don't know.
No, actually I think it's very positive. Let's assume you have a link penalty. It's a very powerful instrument not to have a successful reconsideration request. And I'm talking out of experience because like, especially very big sites that did every crap, comment, spam, whatever, it's very hard to get rid of those links. And you would be rejected at the end if you would do a manual reconsideration request. But with this Disavow tool, now we have a way higher success rate in terms of successful reconsideration requests. What the special tip here I would give you today is like, often you should think about when it's low quality websites linking back to you, that you put the whole site wide. You put it into the Disavow file, because like with session IDs, whatever, you always can miss a link. And this really helps us to bring big websites out of a manual link penalty.
Fantastic. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, thanks guys.
So just a quick, that's something there as well. Just a quick follow-up on that one. I actually was talking to John Muller and Will Reynolds. We were in a nice discussion, the three of us in the speakers lounge at SMS Munich 2 days ago. And we were actually talking also about specifically the impact with disallow stuff. And it is, like Jonas said, go for the domain name. If you look, for example, at the GWT links, how many of you believe that this is the total backlink profile? Yeah, the download latest link button. It isn't. It absolutely isn't. It's a sample of X amount of domains, and if they, for example, see a site-wide link across like 10,000 pages, they're not going to show you 10,000 links in that particular sample. They're going to show you a few. So that means that you never know where there might still be another link. So if you don't trust the particular website already, be it a blog on a subhost, on a subdomain somewhere, like for example Blogspot, or if it's like a complete domain, I would just go with the whole thing and just say, okay, I don't trust any link from this site to my site. Get rid of it totally with the Disavow tool.
Fantastic. I think there are questions over. Yeah.
One more, because there was also this penalty session from John Miller. He also said they're going to check official statement about 10% of the backlinks they check. So when you're trying to get for re-inclusion for manual penalty, you don't try to, okay, let's try this 50 links, or still didn't work, put another 50 links, still didn't work. They know what crap you have or what bad backlinks. So be as transparent as you can be, so faster it's done.
Fantastic. Me? Yeah. Hey. Hi, I'm James from Pernet, based in Brighton. You mentioned no-follow links. It's just a question about that. We work with quite a lot of bloggers who are running scared. It's quite dramatic, running scared, but they put no-follow links on all of their content that we give them, just to be safe so they don't lose any page rank. When we work with these bloggers, what circumstances should they use no-follow links? I mean, obviously on paid posts, but what other circumstances should they use no-follow links on?
I didn't get the question.
So I think that it's kind of, in terms of lots of bloggers kind of perhaps over hearing stories about selling links, therefore knowing that they should be no-following them, perhaps taking it perhaps even further, just no-following all outbound links, as it were. What circumstances do you think, from Google's perspective, should people be using no-follow links?
Usual statement from Google is use nofollow whenever you don't want to give power or a vote to the other site you're linking to. So when you have a blog and you sell a link, that should be the case. Now, that said, building links is always difficult, and getting good links from good blogs, it's a value. So you can do it smartly. Try not to have too many links on any blog post. If you sell them, try to do it only if the content is really relevant, and not only in that single post, but on the blog itself. Is really the blog related to the content of that website? That said, you're still at risk of being penalized, because as we discussed, link buying is not accepted. But I would say use your best judgment to see if you can really sell one single link in one blog post with a true anchor text which could be the brand. So other side of this question could be, should I use non-brand or brand keywords to make those links? Brand is more and more a ranking factor for Google. It's clear, it's going in that direction, so there is no shame in linking from a blog post for the brand. It's going to be more natural, it's going to still give power to the website, and it's going to contribute to the natural aspect of the link prospect of that site. So the advice is to be careful and not sell links in blog posts with a lot of non-brand anchor text.
I would also say link building. How many of you do link building for search engines? Yeah, show of hands. How many do it for traffic acquisition? Which is not necessarily the same. So, you want to really put your brand out there. You want to put it out there so that you actually get people going to your website, not necessarily only to search engines. That's what linking is in a large part for as well. Try to solve people's problems. If you're a blogger, and unless you're covering like live events, like some people in the room are doing, which may not necessarily be solving an immediate problem, except maybe someone who's sitting at home who couldn't come, you're solving that problem. Yeah? Really, solve someone's problem. It does, like, if you really write a high quality content and compelling article about solving someone's problem and actually solve the problem in that article, to be honest, I don't think it's going to be a big issue with follow or no follow at that point.
Fantastic. I'm going to go down the side so we can get a few questions. Sorry to turn the house on just a tiny bit as well so I can see a bit better. I'm going to come down to someone towards the back there. Do my Indiana Jones impression. Here we go, I saw a hand here.
Hi guys, Dave from Distill. So now that you guys are all SEOs, how do you do your link building?
How do what?
How do you do your link building?
That's a good question.
No fluff, get posts, widgets, what do you exactly anchor text?
So how I said in the beginning, two niches we specialize in. First, consulting. It's easy, you just consult, right? You don't do it. Okay, you get this one. So the second one, we were only focusing on doctors. So we're only doing online marketing for doctors at the end. And we really were thinking about which niche will we pick to offer SEO. And then we pick one where the doctor really wants to build a reputation for lifetime. Really a sustainable reputation. And that's why he's bringing more patients when we optimize him. And he's really an expert, so we really can place him with good public relations work, etc., etc. So when we started off, I never ever hired any person who was involved with SEO before, because they're just thinking too dirty, in my opinion. So we just were getting like really good people from university who know how to write, former journalists, stuff like this. And this really worked well. So if somebody asks me, can you tell me which one is a good link building agency, and say none of the SEO agencies, maybe public relations agencies or marketing campaign agencies. So that's that. For us it's easy now because we only work in this field, because I didn't want to get in this situation we just talked about.
Maybe another quick mention, being in-house SEO, you have the opportunity to do a lot of link exchange with sites within your network. And that's where we focus for link building. We exchange links with the sites which are part of our mother company. Fortunately, we have a lot of them in our case, but we try to optimize those links as much as we can. And that's one main way we go for link building. Eventually, we could be interested in links from blogs, but only, again, if they're really consistent with our main topic and focus.
I've got a question just here.
Hi, I'm Erwin. I'm from an in-house SEO.
just want to retouch again on the Disavow. How often is it okay to run the Disavow through the webmaster tools? I mean, if you do it way too often, is that an issue? That's basically what I want to know.
Well, our clients updated it daily because there were coming some new links and some new spam links. They couldn't do anything for it, so they were updating it daily.
Fantastic. Have you got any other questions as well? I've got one just down here.
Also here in the front.
Oh, yeah, I'll go to this first and then down.
Hi, Emily Hill from Write My Site, which is a content marketing agency. So my question is about content. The question that all of our clients ask the minute they come on board with us is, what kind of content should my brand be producing for the best result in the Google search rankings?
So what was the sector specifically, when you say?
Well, content marketing, so we produce content for clients.
Like I said, solve someone's problem. Just a simple example. I wrote an article last year. I posted on my personal blog. It was not meant to well, it was a write-up for myself to solve a problem of myself. Yeah, and that's basically that's how you need to think about it. Of course, I made the text a little bit nicer because I'm not going to say you need to myself. But other than that, it was pretty much a write-up for myself. By doing that and really focusing on the content and really making it like a nice long article, useful article, then I thought, let's target it a little bit. I did it 20 hours before a release of a new software package distribution, and I let it crawl at that point. I published it, let it crawl. I started tweeting about it a few. By the time the software distribution was released, basically I was ranking #1 for that because I was solving a problem. From that moment on till even today has delivered more than 400,000 visitors just on that one article alone, and more than 115 comments and stuff like that. So, solve someone's problem, you really help. If you don't solve someone's problem, like I've seen plenty of sites where the article, the article on the website, the travel site, for example, of a certain region, they're not solving the problem of the people wanting to go to a region. They're just describing what's there, but they say, yeah, you can come here. It's very nice. We have water. You can windsurf. Come here. That's pretty much in the summary what the text is. If you're reading that and you need to decide on your holiday, is that what's going to trigger you of saying, yes, I need to go here? Or is something like, yes, you can windsurf, these are the costs, this is where you can go windsurfing, don't come in these months, because if you do that, then the waves will be bad, and if you go windsurfing, you may want to stay also at these and these places, because they're closer to the beach. That's something that's more useful. That makes say like, oh, actually, that might be something. Now add a few nice photos of people with their boards, yeah, you can do something fun there. So really try to solve people's problem.
There's a question. It's two here. I'll go and then we'll go over to the other side.
Hi, Erica, e-commerce manager at Boo Avenue Lingerie. I was just wondering, are all spam reports investigated at Google? And if not, what can you do to increase the likelihood of investigation?
I can very simply say yes. All of them literally are being looked at.
How long would you expect to have to wait to get a return?
I would say it kind of depends, but in most cases, most are looked at within a month, or sorry, within a week even, in most cases. But it kind of depends on the market, it depends on the language. Like if we're talking about Northern Korean, yeah, we'll have a little bit more of a delay than English, just saying. One of the dialects, or one of the many languages in India, of the smaller ones, it will also have a slightly more delay than English, or Dutch, or German, or So it really depends on the market, really depends on people behind it. But in principle, every single one are looked at. But not every single one is useful either. So keep that in mind. So you want to provide as much useful information and as short as possible. And include some example URLs. It's perfectly fine. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, answer.
Hi, I'm Shah from remove.com, which is a link removal outreach tool. And one of the things that's been concerning us recently is that we're seeing, from an engineering point of view, some very interesting behaviours from webmasters that are effectively making it look like a link is gone, and then a few days later, magically the page appears. One of the classic ones is that they'll apply a 302 redirect to a 404 page, and 4 or 5 days later that goes away, and suddenly the page is back, the link is there. So the issue for the people who are doing link removal is that they can be reporting in a reconsideration request. They've gone, they've checked, the link is gone, everything looks good to them because they're seeing a 404 page. And they'll submit a reconsideration request, and obviously if Google goes and checks that particular link and the link is there, then it looks like they're actually giving false information. So I guess my question is, does Google spend any time on trying to track down and pay attention to these sorts of behaviours, or is it really just tough luck for the people who have that happen?
So very simple. Reconsideration request. First of all, by the way, congratulations with the boat anchor. Anyone, by the way, having a Mac should look that up in like an old funny video about Macs. But yeah, so regarding reconsideration request, one very simple short phrase: don't play games with the reconsideration team. They really, really don't like it. And yes, you do get caught very, very easily.
Yeah, well, I guess my concern here is that to them it probably looks like these people are playing games with them, but it's not actually the people who are trying to get re-included or reconsidered that are playing the game. It's the webmaster at the other end who, clearly for some, I can only assume they've got pages with lots of links that they're getting paid for, and so they're trying to make it look like that link's gone away so you stop emailing them. And they want to bring it back because they've still got other links they're getting paid for. So, it's them that's playing the game, but what seems to be happening for a lot of people that I come into contact with is that they actually get, they're probably building a reputation with the web spam team that they are playing games when it's actually not them. So I guess that's why I'm wondering if Google actually spends any time on that.
So I also, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I also get the idea, like from what I understand, is that you try to get the reconsideration request in, you have people removing the links, the bad links, and you then want to be reconsidered, but they put the link back, right?
Correct.
So when you submit a reconsideration request based on bad linking, manual penalty or something like that, but absolutely don't stop that. Feel free to disavow the domain as well in addition to that. Like if they bring it back later, no problem.
And don't pay other webmasters to
remove
the link.
No, well, I guess where the issue comes is that people generally don't disavow if they believe the link is gone. And I mean, the only reason I know this behaviour is happening is because we have a tool and we actually crawl links to check stuff. We see these behaviours happening. The person who's actually doing the link removal is simply, sending emails. They check, the link is gone as far as they're concerned, so they're not going to disavow because they think that's a mean thing to do to someone who actually remove the link when you ask them. But by the time the reconsideration request gets to the web spam team, it looks like something completely different.
But I would see no harm in removing the links and still disavow the domain completely. So that if they get back with links to you, they're not being considered.
I guess the issue is that Google doesn't actually write back and say, we didn't pass your reconsideration request because this link is still there and you told us it's not. So, there's a big issue for people because they don't necessarily know what the problem is. They just keep getting refused, and some of it is due to these webmaster behaviours. So I guess that's why I would have hoped that maybe Google would pay some attention to whether those things are happening.
And Google always tries to find scalable solutions, and that's why they have this disavow file now, so that you can add it to this.
The scalable solution is you're now doing the work, but
yeah, but
it's kind of true. I mean, you don't get clear answer on the single case. Bear in mind that in the last years, at least, Google has done a lot of improvements in communication. Look at webmaster tools, for instance. You now have a set of data which we could not imagine 4 or 5 years ago. So I think they go towards a good direction in that sense, but correct. They won't answer on the very single things.
That won't change anytime soon though. They will try to do as much as they can, but there's also legal aspects there that will prevent them from doing anything in particular. But like we said, like absolutely disavow. It's a nice interesting trend actually, especially if you see that happening on purpose and with malicious intent. It might actually be nice to write a blog post about it and go, if you can at least, because that kind of stuff can then be shared among the community with some specific examples if possible, or screenshots or something like that. You know, it can still be anonymized a bit. But then send also the data, like, I'm sure that they would love to hear it, but as a tip from an SEO perspective, absolutely don't hesitate to disavow at the same time too. Like you tried, and that's what they want you to do. They want you to try, Google wants you to try to get rid of the bad link, because if it's still there, the user sees it. And also that's something you should be concerned about, because do you want your brand always to be shown on crappy, really crappy blog sites? You know, is that something that you feel like, well, if the mother sees that, that's great. I would not want my brands or the clients, to be honest, I don't want them to actually be there. I know it gives them a shitload of backlinks, but I don't want them to be there because I think it actually hurts who they are as a company.
Actually, our best strategy to acquire doctors was to showing their backlink profiles from previous agencies.
Good question over there. Hey guys, Tom from Distilled. Okay, so you've got a gun to your head, you've got 72 hours to make a domain rank. It doesn't have to stay ranking for very long. What do you guys do with your inside knowledge? And can you include a comment on whether you're going to use negative SEO against whatever's already ranking?
So you're basically asking, do we do spam?
I'm just asking, essentially, I'm asking what would work.
Yeah, if you had to do it.
If you had to do it, gun to your head, gun to a baby rabbit's head, it's all kicking off.
I would refuse the assignment.
Yeah.
No, to be fair, the question always comes up to you. Personally, if I can, I try to refuse any kind of this task, for the simple reason that I believe that SEO is a long-term strategy which will pay back in time, and then...
Okay, but it's still a realistic scenario that I'm going to be competing against people who are doing this, who are going to be churning and burning above me. And
you're basically asking, okay, how, if I go down the short-term strategy and I want to be successful now, what should I do? And
small disclaimer, this still doesn't do this when you're asking.
So that's
scientifically.
That's literally spam the hell out of things. Now, the one thing that can absolutely work, but I absolutely would not advocate anyone to do that here for legal reasons, especially not for me, but also for yourself, especially for yourself, is hacked pages, hacked sites, that kind of stuff. That can most definitely, if you have the gun to your head and you're in that situation, then you have to get something up for 72 hours. That is a way of pushing something very, very fast. The downside as well is...
it's illegal.
It's illegal. It's heavily illegal. It's like you really don't want to go there. And if you're in the position that the client comes to you with this particular request, like Alfredo said, I absolutely would say, like, okay, first of all, why do you need 72 hours? Why is it, like, most of the time because they misplanned, they had some other agency that didn't perform, or they just came up with an idea and they now want to have it implemented. In basically all those cases, I would go towards education mode and basically like, okay, first of all, if it's a recurring thing, let's focus on next year and forget this year. Yeah, that kind of stuff. If it's something that's not reoccurring just one time and it's a new product or whatever, let's look at how to do this properly. So again, I can't advocate doing this, but the bad stuff. But yeah, if you're asking like a hypothetical situation, what's a way of getting there, which I get the feeling you are, hacked is one way of doing it, and it can be a very successful way. So, for example, cloaking 301s on HCXs or in HTTP headers with 301s of sites that you hack, and then use big sites that get crawled often, and then point them to your site, you know? Stuff like that. That will work, but very short term. So, you didn't say like how long does it need to be alive. So, yeah. But
so
there's also Kelvin. There's also one person here. Yeah.
Hi, Adriano Grevitrin. Just a question. We have got recently one client, we can call Adriano Flower. This client has got a penalization. We have studied backlink analysis, and most of the links come from the same anchor text, shop flower. The question is, if I just change shop flower to Adriano shop, and then I ask for reconsideration, is it fine? Is it not? Thank you.
Yeah.
So my experience shows any kind of penalties or filters, if you are more aggressive in changing stuff, you succeed more. So I would say, do you know this website, this this archive website where you can see the previous version?
Web.archive.org.
This one. Do you know this website? So you can see like how a website looked like a couple of years ago. Yeah, so this website is doing this. So and actually what Google wants to see is that somebody really learned a lesson, really wants to change something. If you just change the anchor from the anchor to a brand name on a crappy website, it's still a crappy website linking back to you, right? So
it's the website that makes the connection rather than the anchor text. There was the question over there.
Yeah. He's been holding his hand like 4 times or something, 5 times already.
Stop down here!
Hey guys, it's Malcolm from Limetree. Just wondering, it's quite a broad question, how important do you think signals from social media are now and in the future for rankings?
A quick answer from our side, we have been wondering about that for quite a long time, and we found out that at the moment it's not really used yet. So whenever I get a question like, okay, I can acquire all those links on Facebook, cool, they won't help us directly in the rankings yet. That said, it's a big discussion. There are, of course, all the big news coming up like Google Plus and many other things. But I will try to look on the other way around. How is search changing, going into more social? Will you need to consider social as a ranking factor or not, given the fact that the search can be so different if you're a search social user or a normal search person. But I would say that at the moment it's not yet any useful in terms of classic web rankings.
They're still trying to figure it out. Matt Cutts also said that already. They're still trying to figure out what to do exactly with the data. So at the moment I don't see it as a major ranking factor. It's like the probably slightly even less than the page speed, like the less than 1% of your ranking factor kind of thing, like will be impacted by that particular part. That said, future-wise, I can absolutely see this becoming more important. How many of you have like are active or have clients active on Google Plus? Okay, and how many on Facebook? How many are combining the two? So that's already half of that. And the majority of the group still haven't put their hands up. So, of the audience here. So, I'm like, Facebook has one big problem for Google. It's walled off. They can't get to the data as efficiently. They can get some data. They see some of it, but they don't see the majority of it. They don't see the connections. They don't see the people as much. Google Plus allows them to do that, to get that data. That means that if you write, like if they can verify you're an actual real person, because like, okay, I have an Android phone, we probably all have still, but we basically, I have Google Latitude on it. So Google knows I'm traveling, you know? Google knows I have email, Google knows I use Google Drive, Google knows I use Google Docs, Plus. As a result, it knows that I'm +1ing stuff. And now I upload photos, and now it knows really a lot about me. If I now write a review, it knows, okay, this is like an authentic review, most likely. Now, even if they don't know if I got paid for the review, which, by the way, I don't do, but if I would do that, they would know that difference. But they would still know me as a real person or a real entity. The sooner you get into this, I would say absolutely, I don't think it's going to be a waste of time, for the reason that you will give long-term data for when they will start using it. If they're going to start using it, you will already be in there. Yeah, when like I mentioned an article where I solved my own problem as well as other people's problem. That is shown most of the time with my photo next to it. You know, the authorship thing. Great, you know, they can do that because my Google Plus profile is there and that kind of stuff. And that gives me also a slightly higher CTR again. So it does help me with ranking. Higher CTR helps also again with ranking. So it's maybe not a direct impact right now on the rankings, but I think it is most definitely an indirect impact a little bit, just a tiny bit, because they're still trying to figure out how to use the data. Long term, I think they will use it more and more and more. And if you're already now in there, you'll be in a better position by the time they really start using it.
So you use Google Plus then, yeah? Is that the short version? You use Google Plus? You know,
I would go for it, but the second reason why I would also go for it, and that's the same as with link building, it's about also traffic acquisition. You actually want an audience that doesn't necessarily get to you through search engine only. Yeah, you want, it's like remarketing. How many of you guys do remarketing? So you guys should know that the reason, or like the effectiveness of remarketing is, you actually show them an ad in one place, and you actually show them the same ad or a similar ad later to remind them of that. That's basically in a similar way. If they saw my search result one time and they didn't click on it, fine with that. If they see then another time in their plus stream the same article or a similar article with my name come by, I do branding. Yeah? And do that a few more times and in different spots. Now I have a trust factor that both Google as well as the actual user independently, subconsciously has. So yeah, I would absolutely go with social media and go down that path. But I would try to make it useful. Try to solve people's problems. Even there, set up like, how many of you are maintaining a Google Plus community? How many of you are maintaining a Facebook group or page?
How many of you people use Chrome? It's sending the most social signals right now.
Yeah. You see, it's like with Google Plus communities, like if you haven't started using it yet, there's so many communities there still at this point that are not there that you can start helping people. Don't put your brand in there. Put like solve people's problems. If you want to talk about SEO, start talking about SEO. If you want to talk about hotels, start talking about what are great hotel rooms or whatever. And don't start saying, hey, here's my client, he has great hotel rooms. No, start like, hey, what problems do you have commonly with hotel rooms? Start writing about that. Start a community on that particular topic, if you go that way, if that's your need. And then basically, if you then once in a while, 1% of all the posts, throw in like, oh yeah, by the way, we have a special offer you might be interested in. You know, great. You actually get conversions, you get branding, you get all the other stuff, and you get it for free in a way, because you basically get that in addition to the search.
Fantastic. So one final question to wrap us up. Two-part question, a simple one. What was the best thing about working for Google? What was the worst thing about working for Google? Jonas?
The thing I've missed the most actually was my weekly massage.
So suppose I have the worst too.
Yeah. Well, you can do it.
I would say that while we all love Google, I think there is a shared concern about the fact that the company is growing a lot also in terms of bureaucracy. Yeah. And I will see that personally as a limit to evolve and get into more interesting things. So I mean, I thought that Google is a special company, at the same time it's a very normal one, in the sense that it's made by humans. There are competitions going on, there is bureaucracy going on. So sometimes if you want to progress and do things your own and understand more, you leave. And that's why there are so many people from Google also getting into new positions in other companies. And there are so many concerns about the fact that the leaving rate in a company is just huge, and people leave sometimes very fast.
Let's finish off.
So worst and best?
Yeah, if you can do both, that's good.
Okay. I go with Alfredo on the internal part, on the worst part. It's not that bad, don't get me wrong. I'm actually kind of like a skeptical fanboy kind of thing. So absolutely, it's getting worse. I have seen it. It's also natural. It's not like, oh, like sinking ship or something like that. But it is something that you experience that the culture has changed. I've been there for 7 years, and the culture when I joined and when I left was totally different. One of the great things, best things, absolutely, at Google that I experienced and working for Google is literally the things I've learned, the innovation that I've experienced. Like nothing is the same. Like you don't know. Google has quarterly goals. You know, like there's like objective key results kind of thing, strategy, where it basically tries by the end of the quarter get to a certain level. Pretty much every single quarter, halfway, that was completely rewritten. Yeah? That was just like, okay, we think we're going to do this. Oh, halfway we already accomplished that, or actually, you know what, the web has changed so much already in the last 3 weeks, that doesn't apply anymore. Let's reinvent, rewrite the whole objective for this quarter. We only got like 5-6 weeks left, but what we're going to do there, let's rewrite it all and just do something completely else and still be successful. Being at the edge of the internet, seeing the innovation, being part of that, the learnings I've had there, absolutely one of the best experiences.
Fantastic. Well, we can have a big round of applause for our three panelists.